I hope I do the right things now with a computer. Me and computers, I rather face 10 aggressive German shepherds than one computer with problems.
So
So,
we have coped with it, and now it
yeah,
works. It's okay.
yes,
Great.
so far, so good. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much that you have found time for this meeting. It's a big honor for me to talk to you, and of course for all our professional dog trainers and dog owners who will have opportunity to watch this interview. It will be a great gift for New Year.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
And well, preparing for this interview, I had made a long list of questions,
Yes.
and finally, I um, I had to shorten it a lot, and now I have 10 questions, and I hope
Okay.
that that it's okay.
Yeah, yeah,
If not,
absolutely.
just stop me, and it's okay also.
Yeah, yeah. I must ask, is it enough light or?
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, it's
Okay,
okay. Yes,
okay, great. And the
it's
sound
okay.
is
Sound and view, it's excellent.
okay. Thank you. Okay.
Well, and the first question is the following. Um, I started as a dog trainer in Russia 6 years ago, and nowadays we also don't have so many positive trainers, really positive dog trainers, as we would like to. And 6 years ago, when I started, a lot of people treated me as a strange person and strange methods, and even like I do something like cheating, and it's not serious, it doesn't work, and so on. And I asked myself, Anders Halgren has started 50 years ago. Well, how did you feel, and how people around you did treat your ideas, your methods, training, and so on?
You just described it. It was the same. I
Really?
was really, yeah, I was a strange person, and it must be something wrong in my head, they thought. And also I dared to say, like after 20 years or something, that you don't have to use punishment at all. And then I was almost shot. So, but nowadays I'm accepted, and most of my views that I had from start, my views and my comrades' views, they are accepted, and they are norm today.
Oh, in Sweden, you mean?
In Scandinavia, I could say,
Oh,
and America is catching up too. Yeah.
oh, that's great. That's great news, and it's very supportive because we're just on the way to this up, and we hope that one day our dog trainers would say the same things, that we are accepted.
Yes, it's coming. I can guarantee you it's coming. So you have to go through the fire for a while, and then it takes some years, but then more and more people accept you. And you see, most dog owners, they want to treat their dogs with love and not with force. So you have most dog owners on your side. It's the professionals that are still thinking the old ways that are the problem.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you very much. It's inspiring. And could you tell me, please, nowadays in Scandinavia, for example, do you have all trainers are positive, or do you also have some trainers who use force and use aversive methods?
Actually, they were in quite minority, the tough ones, but then Swedish television started to send out dog experts, and they were to change a dog in 45 minutes from bad to
Oh,
obedient, and
I
they
know.
of course used very offensive methods, and so there was a change for some years, but now uh, uh, we softies, so to say, uh, are in lead again. We are the majority and the norm today.
That's great.
Yeah,
Well, you have taught service dogs. Not only you worked with companion dogs, but also with service dogs in several fields: assistant dogs, dogs detecting smoke and mold. And well, how could you please tell me how all it started? Well, was it you who come to people who worked with service dogs and say, "I can help you," or they just they ask you about help?
yeah. There's an organization. It's international. It's Delta Society. In Sweden, it's called something else. I don't remember now. And Manimalis, it's called in Sweden, and they are founded by fabricated dog food, those big conglomerates that make dog foods. So they have quite a lot of money, and they work to enhance the status of dogs all over society. And they contacted me and asked me if I could start to train the first service dog here in Sweden. And I said, just under my conditions, only the way I want to. And they said yes. And I said, because I'm not going to train the dog owner, the disabled person, he's going or she is going to train her or his dog by themselves. My role is just to show how to do it. And then they said, "Oh, that's not impossible. We have looked all over in some European countries and in America where they train service dogs, and always they train the dog and then they co-train the dog with a disabled person." And I said, "No, that's not my way." And they say, "Okay, go for it." And I went for it, and the first dog was a problematic border collie.
Oh,
But the disabled person, he had that dog, and he almost couldn't handle it because the dog ran after and chased anything that moved, cyclists, birds, cars, anything. So that was something something challenging, really. But we started, and we taught the dog with clicker not to chase things, and we gave the dog a lot of mental and physical activities. And suddenly the dog changed and grew into the role of helping the owner, stopped chasing after anything that moved, and uh, became, in her heart and her mind, a really a real service dog. So she even developed her own things. So, for example, when they were out with a wheelchair, she pushed the wheelchair with her neck
oh,
uh, down there. There's something that she could put her neck on a few yards, and then she stopped and she looked forward, and then she pushed again. So, and that she created just by herself. So after that, we started service dog training in a big scale, and every dog was trained by the disabled person who had the dog. And the instructor's role was just to help the disabled person, not to train the dog. And one more um, very good thing came out of that. The disabled person, for many, was first time in their lives. They grew. They could train their dog, so they became so active in many areas. They were active on meetings with other disabled people. They were on TV. They were in newspapers. They were everywhere, and very active and proud.
So, well, there were big changes in dogs and in people also.
Absolutely, yes.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
And some people who work with service dogs, they use aversive methods, force, and they say that it's more quickly, it's quick results, and if and much more reliable results. In comparison, if we use your approach, our approach, when we care about dogs' welfare and use only positive methods, and if we compare it with other methods uh, about effectiveness, about time, and so on, how could you comment on that?
Um, with the harsh methods and punishments and force in any form or shape, you will get a more passive dog, because the dog becomes afraid of punishment and the dominant treatment that it's faced with. So it's passive, and then it becomes dependent on the trainer. So it's like a trainer dependency, uh, and the dog will not develop any any um, any ways to behave on its own, uh, because it's so passive, and it has learned that any initiative can be punished, like barking, punishment, jumping up, punishment, um, running away, punishment. So you, in the end, you get a passive dog afraid of punishment, and does what he or she has to do, but not because it's funny. So the result is less in the personality of the dog. The the result is less good, and when you train positively, it's just as good as as any, or better as any other training. Uh, Depending on some things. You see, when a dog takes initiatives that are not good for people, like jumping up on strange people or barking too much or something, pulling the leash, it does that because the dog has so much energy, especially young dogs. They are full of energy. That is the main cause why dogs pull leash, because it's an energy problem. And you can see it if you look at when a dog pulls the leash. It's in the beginning of the walk, not on the way home. So that's the proof, so to speak. So uh, so with a service dog, you cannot use that dog just as a means, as a tool, because it's a it's a comrade. So you have to treat the dog uh, the way that the dog's nature uh, needs, and that is mental activation and physical activation. Then the dog is in balance, um, mentally and emotionally, and then the dog can work in any line of work actually, but as a service dog, very, very well. Uh, and of course, if you don't overuse the dog, you but a disabled person uses the dog very intermediate, uh, uh, like now you can fetch me something, and now let's go outside. Um, uh, Come, do that, but it's not all day long. It's just um, some some short moments in a day. Mhm.
Well, I have heard that in Sweden you have rather strict rules about how to care about the dog. And for example, that the dog can't be closed in the cage if her owner is absent, for example. Is that truth?
Uh, it's a time limit. You can have the dog in a cage for one, I think 1 hour or something, and this is law. It's
Oh,
law. So
it's
yeah,
law regulated.
yeah, and the dog must be taken care of and taken out for a walk every 6 hour during daytime. So you cannot leave a dog alone for 8, 10 hours.
Uh,
That's impossible here. Then you can get a fine.
Yeah, that's
Mm.
great. And as far as I know, you have contributed a lot in these rules. Is that
Yeah,
true? And how did you manage to do it? Because we really wanted to know the examples I exist.
yeah,
We
okay.
want such rules here also.
Yeah, I have written like since the beginning of 1970s, I would say, about caretaking of dogs in general, where these things have come up. And I've written in newspapers, stated it in interviews. I've been on television and talked about it. And then through my education of people in my profession, there was a guy that uh, was very interested in animal welfare, and eventually he came to work with the legal aspects of dog welfare. So he was in a committee that were making the ground rules for how to treat dogs. So I had contact with him all the time. He asked me, how many hours can a dog be alone? Oh, 5 hours, and puppies not at all. So I was a little bit behind it, yeah. But he made the most of the work, I must say. Mm.
That's nice. That's amazing. And we dream
If
about such rules.
yeah, if Putin Putin ever gets a dog, probably you can get no, that was a bad joke, I'm sorry. we can we can cut that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and now some questions about the human approach, about positive approach in training dogs and living with dogs. So in Russia, now we have different categories of dog trainers. And we have some of them who use only force, um, not very a big group who use only really positive methods. And we have only trainers who just in the middle.
Yeah.
So they say we prefer to use positive methods, and sometimes it works, but sometimes not. And then in these situations we have to use other methods, and we have to use force because we can't sometimes solve out behavioral problems, for example, with positive methods. You have been working for 50 years. Have you ever had the situation or some behavioral problem or something like that, where human and positive training methods didn't work or just could not work, just as a hypothesis, for example. Is that
Okay.
possible?
Yeah. In the beginning, I used force too. Not for very hard force because I love dogs and I don't want to hurt any dog. But uh, I trained like with a water pistol, something like that. I could use that was 30 years ago, something. But you see, all the time, all the time, every single case I had, I asked myself, why does this dog do this? Why does this dog launch at another dog or person and nothing helps? I can punish the dog, gently.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, no effect, yes, in the beginning, but after a while the dog is back again. So it's always why, and this has led me into the the background, not the symptoms, but the
yeah.
behind the symptoms.
Deeper, to go
Yeah,
deeper.
yeah. What is lying there? And then I have found the reasons why harsh methods just works for a little bit, or why people prefer them. That is stress problems, pain problems, um, uh, hormonal problems, and things like that. Even nourishment problems. Some dogs, you can change some dogs' behavior by changing food, for example. So this has gradually led me into more and more ways to map the background factors. And when you change the background factors, you will see you don't need to punish the dog. Let me take a few examples. With the stress analysis, measuring over and understimulation, but on the understimulation part, I'm going to talk about this when you measure the understimulation part, you get a ratio how many hours the dog is resting out of 24. And since dogs uh, uh, are resting very much because they synchronize their behaviors with us, our behaviors. So we sit still, we lie still, we are still, and when the dog inside the house is running around, we tell him go to bed, lie down, rest. So a dog at the age of 1 year around, he can rest up to 22 hours out of 24. Let's say you go for a walk, 1 hour and a half, every walk together, 1 hour and a half,
Yeah,
and um, the dog is outside. If you have a fenced in yard, 15 minutes, because if you're not with the dog, he's going to sit at in your patio or at your door. Inside, most dogs by the age of 1 year and upwards are very calm. That is what's called a good dog when they are resting. So when the dog gets outside, it has a lot of energy to channelize. And there you have one problem. So when you activate the dog inside the house, which is very simple, and you take the walks that the dog needs, like a young dog needs more than 1 hour and a half, divided into several walks. Um, and when it rains, you just activate the dog inside more, searching for treats. It takes you about 3-4 minutes to to hide 30 very very small treats in the rooms. It takes the dog 15 20 minutes to find them, and that equals a walk of half an hour or something. So, uh, so that is why it's so important to map the stress factors. And I said two examples. The other example um, is pain. It's very common that a dog is in pain, but it's very difficult to see it because we we think that a dog should show pain, or any animal should show pain in the face, because we show pain with our mimic in our faces. Dogs don't. And animals don't have this pain mimic. You can see it in the dog's eyes. I've learned, but it took me my 50 plus years to be sure, when I look at the eyes of the dog, to say the probability that this dog is in pain is 80% or 90%. And the most common pain is in the movement apparatus. That is joints, muscles, and the back. And I made a study. It's quite old now. It was in the 1990s, but it's still
It's actual.
yeah, thank you, thank you. uh, so it's used when we train people in this profession. And um, it said that 60% of a normal population of dogs have something in their back. Could be a twist or something where the vertebrae are not in a line. And a vertebra can push on a nerve, like ischias nerve, for example. And this creates aggression or fear in the dog, mostly aggression. And when a physiotherapist helps the dog, the symptoms could be gone immediately. Immediately.
Yeah.
So this is how I work. I work with the background factors. And if I have to train a dog, I do it only positively with clicker training and other positive methods.
Yeah. So, if to summarize everything we discussed now about this question, could we say that if positive training methods, for example, doesn't work, it doesn't mean that positive methods doesn't work, but it means that there are some reasons, deeper reasons, which we can't see now, which cause all these symptoms. And we don't need to use force, but we need to go deeper and to find the things which make the dog behave in some way. Yes.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Mm.
And well, the question about assistant dogs. Is it possible to teach them only with positive? You have already answered. And is it possible to provide them the life which suit their needs without stress, I mean? Because it's a question of ethics, I would say, and the picture I can see around, I don't like it, because I think it looks like abusing dogs. And do you have another picture and another experience? Is it possible for dogs to serve for people and to be assistants and to have happy living at the same time?
Absolutely, absolutely. You never need, or if you need force, but I haven't needed force for so many years. And in 1986, I trained this border collie for a service dog without any force at all. And since that um, dog, uh, since she was trained, uh, we never use force in service dog training or any other training at all. If you take like a search dog, like a disaster search dog in ruins, if you use force, you get a dog that will not act independently because it's so dependent on the trainer. And that was I was training disaster search dog in California for a period, and every trainer uh, was too dominant with their dogs, so the dogs were the performance were bad, and each dog had a cost of $10,000 when they began training, because it came from a trainer who used electrical um, uh, means to train the dogs. So they were badly trained from the start, and were so handler dependent that they were almost impossible to work with. So when we started, we took away everything that has had any force or any dominant training. Uh, and then the dogs developed and started to work on their own, as they should. Even if I had to go to every trainer and look him or her in the eyes and say, "Don't raise your voice," I had to be very severe and use force on the trainers.
And it worked.
It worked actually, because then they saw that, hey, it works. So they had the proof in the front of them.
Yeah.
Mm.
Thank you. And one more question about positive approach is the following one. Um, some people say that if we use only positive methods, if we make a good life for the dog, when the dog can, when all the dog's needs are
Satisfied? Yes.
yeah, thank you,
Mhm.
satisfied, and
Yeah.
so on. So we create dangerous dogs. The dog can become uncontrolled, aggressive, because dogs are aggressive and ambitious inside, and we have to suppress it. And if not, if we just love the dog and give her good living, then she can be uncontrolled, bad behavior, aggressive, and so we positive trainers, we just lead the world to the catastrophe. Uh,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I've heard it so many times in so many countries, and this is totally totally wrong. Dogs are not into making careers. They are not trying to move upwards on the social ladder. Uh, they are so very much like their nearest cousin, the wolf. The wolf lives in a family, and uh, the parents, uh, they are the friendliest people you can find in any in any animal. Uh, Most animals actually, they adore the puppies, and they defend them. They take care of them. Not only the parents, but the other adult animals in the wolf pack. They take care of the puppies too, and they feed them, and they care for them in many ways. Um, this is this is the 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 board schedule. No, I'm sorry. I lost the word.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
this is the printing, the
Yeah.
printing of the dog, how it functions. So it's not the the parents that tell the other in the family, shut up, do as I say. No, they are very passive in the emotional social behaviors to the others. Um, it's the young ones that tells tells which are the leaders of the group, so to say, with an old word. Um, uh, it's not the parents' dominance that creates any order. It's the young ones that tell the older ones and the parents that they are the best, they are admired, and they are loved, and they do it with active submissive behavior, exactly what your own dog does when you have been away for some a period, an hour or something. When you come home, the dog comes running up to you, jumps on you, licks your face, whines like a puppy, wags the tail, or the whole dog wags, and then many dogs, they turn around and press their behind against you. Not Labradors, because they go for the shopping bag first of all, but many dogs, they press their behind against you because coming close in speed with your front first could be misinterpreted as an attack. And closeness is also a little bit like loaded. It's a little bit stressful. So to be sure, many dogs turn their back because that's the friendly part. Well, as the dog sees it, and backs against you. So uh, you see, if we were to treat our dogs from puppyhood and forward with dominance, we get passive dogs. They wag a little bit about the tail because that's submissive signals, um, and with a tail a bit down, and uh, they the capacity, the cognitive capacity is ruined or very low. Um, so if you treat a puppy and a young dog the way the parents in a wolf pack treats their young, you will get active, positive dogs. And dogs do not live in a vertical kind of way, social way with uh, with submissive dogs under and dominant over. No, they live in a horizontal group, a cooperative horizontal group where the young ones admires and actually are dependent on the older ones because the older ones know where to go to find food or animal to hunt, um, they protect the young ones, so the young ones come to them for protection. And there you have the dog. If you treat the dog as kindly as you ever can, but you activate the dog physical and mentally, and you see to it that the dog has no pain or anything like that, you can have a wonderful dog. Uh, the dog will never try to get upwards on this social ladder because that social ladder does not exist, or it does exist, but it's uh, to speak with Thelma Rowell, the American biologist. She found out that the rank order does not go with power from up to
Yeah.
down. It's on the other way. It becomes it goes from the the younger ones, the submissive ones, who show with submissive active submission uh, where who's the leader and who they admire most.
Yeah.
Mm.
Thank you.
And if this had to be the case, uh, I would say many dogs in Sweden or in Scandinavia would be really criminal dogs because they have never heard the word no said in a harsh way. And my own dog, unfortunately, he is dead now. Uh, he had never heard any harsh tone in in my voice or my ex-wife's voice. Um, uh, and he was spoiled rotten, but he was never aggressive to anyone or anything, and he didn't chase rabbits or any animals, and any he could go together with any dogs, even aggressive dogs. But I didn't let him. But he could.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of proof out.
Yeah. What would you recommend to the dog trainers who just start working or just develop their professional skills? What is the secret? How to become a real good dog trainer and dog behavior specialist?
Okay. Um, I would say first, think back why you want to train dogs. Do you want to train dogs so you can have some animal to hit and be cruel to? Probably not. You start because you are interested in dogs and you like dogs, you love dogs. That's the reason why you start. Otherwise, you wouldn't go into this occupation. Never forget that. So you have to have your heart in 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 in, in your work, um, and this this states your ideology. Uh, it's an ideology of you love dogs, you don't want to hurt them. Stick to that. I made that clear for myself in the beginning. Uh, I don't want to be severe and hard to a dog, and that made me think of all the alternatives. And it took time. It took decades to find out uh, all these background factors and how to analyze them. Um, uh, so you have to be very critical. Number two, uh, don't don't listen and learn, or to people. Listen but be critical. Uh, so when someone says this is the way, and this someone looks sounds very authoritarian and
Yeah.
like an authority too, and oh yes, I've been in this line of business in 20 years or something. Don't get impressive by that. Always have the reservation. Okay, this guy may be right, but I have to think myself. When I started the training of trainers and dog psychologists, as we call them here, um, um, they were so frustrated because I never told them this is the way. Never. I said, that's one way, that's another way. And after after they had gone through all the education, and they told me we were so frustrated because you couldn't tell us the right way. But now we appreciate it because what you actually learned us, trained us in, is to be critical and to think ourselves. So they became very, very good students. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much
Yeah.